Have you ever felt like you're losing yourself in a relationship? Like your confidence is being slowly drained away, but you can't quite pinpoint how or why it's happening. You're not imagining things. You're experiencing something that has been happening to men for centuries, something so subtle, so invisible, that most never realize it until it's too late. Today, you're about to discover the most dangerous weapon in the female psychological arsenal, and it isn't beauty. It's their masterful ability to undermine, erode, and destabilize male confidence through nearly imperceptible tactics. Tactics so effective that even Machiavelli himself recognized their power centuries ago. Machiavelli understood a fundamental truth. Whoever controls the psychological landscape controls the entire game. And in modern relationship dynamics, there are 5 coldly calculated tactics that women use to break men from the inside out, without ever getting their hands dirty. You see, most men think they're being paranoid when they feel their self-worth crumbling. They blame themselves, thinking, maybe I'm just insecure. But what if I told you that this feeling isn't random? What if I told you that there's a sophisticated psychological operation being executed against you? By the end of this video, you'll understand exactly how these tactics work, why they're so devastatingly effective, and most importantly, how to recognize and defend yourself against them. This isn't just information, it's psychological armor for the modern man. The 5 female tactics explained. 1. Intermittent validation, the bait and withdraw. The first tactic is perhaps the most insidious because it exploits your brain's reward system in the same way a slot machine does. You've experienced this if you've ever found yourself constantly checking your phone, wondering when she'll text back, or feeling an inexplicable high when she finally shows you attention. Here's how it works. She carefully calibrates a cycle of attention and neglect. One day, you receive overwhelming affection, compliments, and interest. You feel chosen, special, valued. Your brain releases dopamine, the same chemical released during drug use. You're literally getting high on her validation. Then, without warning or explanation, she withdraws. The messages slow down, the affection cools, the compliments disappear, and you're left wondering, what did I do wrong? How can I get that feeling back? This isn't random emotional inconsistency. It's a precisely engineered cycle of reward and withdrawal. Each time she pulls away, you work harder for her attention. Each time she returns, your relief is so profound that your attachment to her deepens. You've now entered a vicious cycle where you're psychologically dependent on her validation. You'll tolerate increasingly poor treatment just to get another hit of her approval. Machiavelli would recognize this immediately as the psychological equivalent of creating artificial scarcity to increase value and dependency. Think about your current or past relationships. Have you ever found yourself becoming increasingly anxious, working harder and harder for someone's attention, only to receive less and less in return? That wasn't coincidence, it was strategy. 2. Veiled comparison, the seed of insecurity. The second tactic is so subtle that most men dismiss it entirely, but its effects are devastating to your self-confidence. Have you ever heard phrases like, "My friend's boyfriend is so thoughtful," or "My ex was really good at this," or even seemingly innocent observations like, "I noticed how confident that guy at the party was." These aren't casual comments. They're disguised daggers, strategically planted to corrode your self-confidence from within. Each comparison creates an invisible competitor, a phantom standard you now feel compelled to measure up against. What makes this tactic particularly effective is its plausible deniability. If you express discomfort, you'll immediately be labeled as insecure or controlling. The perfect trap. The more you acknowledge the manipulation, the more you confirm the insecurity she's trying to create. Over time, these comparisons accumulate in your subconscious. You begin to feel inadequate, like you're constantly falling short. You start to believe you need to compete for her approval, that her validation is something you must earn rather than something freely given in a healthy relationship. This is exactly what Machiavelli meant when he wrote about keeping allies uncertain of their position. By never allowing you to feel secure in your value, she ensures your constant effort to prove yourself worthy of her. Consider your own experience. How often have seemingly innocent comparisons made you question your worth or try harder to impress someone? That uncomfortable feeling wasn't your imagination. It was the seed of insecurity being deliberately planted. 3. Boundary testing, programmed erosion. The third tactic operates like water on rock, patient, persistent, and ultimately unstoppable. Have you noticed small disrespects creeping into your relationship? Perhaps she's consistently late, casually changes plans at the last minute, makes decisions without consulting you, or dismisses your concerns as unimportant. These aren't lapses in consideration. They're calculated tests of your boundaries, a methodical mapping of your tolerance for disrespect. Each time you accept a small transgression, you establish a new baseline of what you'll tolerate. And each new baseline becomes the foundation for the next, slightly larger boundary violation. This is a direct application of Machiavelli's principle that men must either be caressed or annihilated. By gradually eroding your boundaries, rather than violating them dramatically, she avoids triggering your defenses while systematically dismantling your self-respect. The most dangerous aspect of this tactic is its incremental nature. No single incident seems worth confronting. But eventually, you'll find yourself tolerating behavior you would have found completely unacceptable at the beginning of your relationship. Your boundaries haven't just been crossed, they've been erased and redrawn to her specifications. This tactic is particularly effective because it makes you complicit in your own diminishment. Each time you accept disrespect without consequence, you're signaling that your boundaries are negotiable, your time is less valuable, and your needs are secondary. Ask yourself honestly, what do you tolerate now that you would have considered unacceptable early in your relationship? That shift didn't happen by accident. 4. False mirroring, the alignment illusion. The fourth tactic exploits your natural desire for connection and understanding. It operates primarily in the early stages of relationship, but lays the groundwork for all that follows. Have you ever met someone who seemed to share your exact interests, values, and dreams, who finished your sentences and made you feel truly understood for perhaps the first time? This profound sense of alignment is intoxicating and often manufactured. False mirroring is the deliberate reflection of your preferences, values, and worldview to create an artificial sense of compatibility and connection. You love obscure indie films. Me too. You value independence above all else. That's exactly how I feel. You dream of traveling the world. I've always wanted that. This isn't genuine alignment. It's emotional engineering designed to bypass your normal vetting process. By appearing to be your perfect match, she creates a powerful illusion that you've found someone who truly gets you. This false connection leads you to drop your defenses, share vulnerabilities, and form attachments much more quickly than you otherwise would. Once this attachment is formed, the mirroring gradually fades. You begin to discover that many of those shared interests and values were temporary performances. But by then, your emotional investment is so significant that the cost of walking away feels too high. Machiavelli understood this principle when he advised leaders to appear to embody the virtues most valued by their subjects. It's not about genuine shared values. It's about strategic alignment to gain influence and control. Reflect on your past relationships. How many began with an almost magical sense of compatibility that later revealed itself to be largely illusory? That wasn't coincidence. It was calculation. 5. Emotional ambiguity, capture without commitment. The fifth tactic might be the most widespread in modern dating culture. Have you heard phrases like, "I'm not sure what we are, let's just see where this goes," or "I don't like putting labels on things"? This calculated ambiguity serves a very specific purpose. It secures your complete investment while maintaining her total freedom. By keeping the relationship undefined, she creates a situation where you feel committed while she remains unbound by any clear expectations or responsibilities. This imbalance places you in a perpetual state of uncertainty, never quite knowing where you stand, always working to prove your worth, constantly trying to earn a commitment that remains just out of reach. Meanwhile, she enjoys all the benefits of your emotional investment, attention, and resources without reciprocal commitment. The genius of this tactic is that it frames commitment as something restrictive or premature, making you feel unreasonable for desiring clarity. You become afraid to push for definition, fearing you'll appear needy or drive her away, so you accept the ambiguity, hoping that your patience and understanding will eventually be rewarded. Machiavelli would recognize this immediately as a strategy of maximum benefit with minimum obligation, the political equivalent of securing a tributary state without the responsibility of governing it. Consider your own experiences with relationship ambiguity. How long have you remained in undefined relationships, investing more and more while receiving less and less clarity in return? That wasn't circumstance, it was strategy. The devastating culmination of these 5 tactics creates a psychological perfect storm. When successfully deployed, they don't just diminish your confidence, they fundamentally reshape your reality. The breaking point arrives when you've unknowingly surrendered your validation, power, and identity into her hands. This is the moment when the trap is complete. You've become dependent on her approval, yet can never quite secure it. You've internalized her assessments of your worth, adopting her criticisms as your own self-talk. You've become hyper-vigilant to her moods and reactions, constantly adjusting your behavior to avoid disapproval. At this critical juncture, she no longer needs to actively manipulate you. The most insidious achievement of these tactics is that you become your own emotional jailer. You police your own thoughts, preemptively sacrifice your own needs, and volunteer your own submission, all in pursuit of a validation that always remains just out of reach. Your confidence lies in ruins. Your self-trust has been systematically dismantled. Your internal compass has been recalibrated to her specifications, and most dangerously of all, you believe this state is normal, perhaps even that you deserve it. This is the masterpiece of Machiavellian female psychology, not just controlling your behavior, but colonizing your self-perception. She now controls the narrative of who you are, what you're worth, and what you deserve. And you've become the most dedicated enforcer of that narrative. Look deeply at yourself right now. Are you constantly seeking someone's approval? Do you doubt your judgments until they're validated by someone else? Do you feel a persistent sense of not being quite good enough? These aren't random insecurities. They're the psychological aftermath of these tactics. The rule is clear and uncompromising. Whoever depends on external approval has already lost the game of power. Machiavelli taught that it is better to be feared than loved when you cannot be both. Translated to modern relationships, it is better to maintain your independent value than to seek validation when you cannot have both security and dependency. You now understand the sophisticated psychological operations that may have been deployed against you. But understanding alone isn't enough. You need a Machiavellian counter-strategy, not to manipulate others, but to protect yourself. First, recognize that your value is inherent, not conferred. The moment you outsource your self-worth to anyone else, you've handed them the ultimate weapon against you. Build and maintain internal validation that's impervious to external manipulation. Second, understand that clear boundaries aren't just healthy. They're essential defenses against psychological encroachment. Every boundary you enforce is a declaration of self-respect. Every standard you maintain strengthens your psychological sovereignty. Third, remember that authentic connection never requires self-diminishment. Any relationship that costs you your confidence, clarity, or peace of mind is too expensive, regardless of its other benefits. The man who doesn't understand these female tactics is destined to be manipulated, controlled, and emotionally disposable. But the man who recognizes them has a choice: to reclaim his psychological territory and become the prince of his own mental kingdom, or remain a servant in someone else's emotional empire. Now you've seen behind the curtain, you understand what's been happening, and you have the knowledge to protect yourself. The question is, what will you do with this awareness? Have these tactics felt familiar to you? Have you recognized them in your own relationships? Share your experiences in the comments below. Like this video if it opened your eyes to dynamics you felt but couldn't name. Subscribe to the channel for more truth that nobody else will tell you. And check out our previous videos. They're equally revealing and essential for any man who wants to navigate modern relationships with his confidence and dignity intact. Remember, in the game of psychological power, awareness isn't just advantage, it's everything.